Welcome to the Real Talk with Megan podcast, where we have candid conversations about the things that matter most. I'm your host, Megan, and we're going to deep dive into the topic of mental health. In a world where we're constantly pressured to perform, achieve, and excel, it's easy to neglect our mental health. But the truth is, mental health is just as important as physical health, and it's time we started treating it as such. Join the conversation as we explore the complexities of mental health issues and speak with experts, advocates, and individuals who have lived through these challenges. Together, we'll work to destigmatize mental health and start conversations. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready for a real and raw conversation about mental health on the Real Talk with Megan podcast. Welcome back. We are in the studio again, and I'm here with Joni today. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. It's great to be back.
Today, we're going to talk about something that I think is a new term for some people. I've talked to a couple people, and they didn't even know this term, but once I told them what it was, it made so much sense. So that's compassion fatigue. So, Joni, what is compassion fatigue?
I think the baseline definition is it's just the cost of caring. Really is what it is. I think it's important to also say that this isn't something that's just set aside for like the helping professions.
Yeah.
This is something that anyone can experience.
Yeah. Do you care for people? Then you
A
could
little bit.
experience
Yes,
this.
absolutely. If you care a little bit, you're set up for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what kind of things can you experience with this compassion fatigue?
I think it can hit us on all sides.
Yeah.
It's not just an emotional experience, but you can experience a physical symptoms as well as literally being tired
Yeah.
or tense. If you're wondering, like why are my shoulders tense or why do I clench my jaw? Um, can be signs of tension, and that
Mhm.
means that we're carrying it from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
There's obviously yes the psychological piece as well. Some people have racing thoughts. Some people will kind of experience it's almost like an inability to like maintain hope.
Mm.
It's not hopelessness, but they're starting to kind of wonder if there is hope,
Yeah.
right? Because they're bombarded with so many people's struggling, or they're so deep into someone
Mm.
else's struggle. Now
Yeah.
they're having a hard time seeing a way out.
Yeah. So, do you think that when someone's experiencing this, that it means they no longer care for people?
Oh no, it's quite the opposite
Yeah.
actually. It's a little bit of, I don't want to say caring too much, but I think it's a lot of give and not enough take,
Hmm.
as such as taking time for self.
Yeah. And I think a way that people can really relate to this too, probably if you're listening and you've heard some of these explanations, you might be seeing yourself in that. But also, like, if you've not experienced that specifically, you've probably experienced burnout in some point in your life. And those go hand in hand, don't they?
Absolutely. One leads to the other,
Yeah.
for sure.
I heard a really cool thing the other day as I was going through some trauma informed care, which has been really cool to learn about all this. And they were talking about burnout, and it was really cool to hear how they were explaining it as like it's a natural response to feeling like the perceived demands outweigh the perceived resources.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool because I've always viewed it so negatively in my mind. Like, well, if I'm burnt out, then I hate my job, I hate my life, like all these things.
Mm.
But really, it's just my body saying, hey, slow down for a second.
Mm-hmm.
We need like some rest. Like, my body needed rest. And so to like give myself permission that, like,
Mm.
okay, when I have burnout, I give myself permission to rest
Mm.
because that's something I would have never done before. It's like, oh, I hit burnout. Well, I can't stop. So let me just plow through. And that does not end well.
No, that's very much the American way,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Just bootstrap that baby and
Hmm.
push right on through. But I think that for me, the best visual picture for me is my tiki torches
Mm.
that I have around my fire pit. I can fill those suckers up with all the little the citronella oil that I I have in there. But after a while, the oil burns up.
Hmm.
Like I have to keep refilling the
Yeah.
oil. That's the idea, is that it's burned out. I did not keep replenishing the
Mhm.
resources. I just kept burning
Yeah.
the torch. So if we think of it that way, is that we were all little tiki torches with our this little light of mine out there
Yep.
shining around, right? Got to refuel that, and I
Mhm.
think it's I think it's a really great trick of the enemy to tell us that we don't need to.
Mhm.
We got this.
Mhm.
We can pump our chest and be like, we're Americans. Like we don't need to be doing none of
I can
that
handle this
silly
all by
stuff. You
myself.
know, and so we get into that mindset that I can just keep going, going, going.
Mhm.
And if we understand that that's under the category of pride,
Mhm.
and if we just lower that a little bit,
Ooh, you might have stepped on some toes there.
absolutely. But that's what it is. Pride
Yeah.
says I don't need that. Pride says
Yeah.
I don't need to be refueled. I
Mhm.
got this. I can do this, and we just keep pushing through and
Yeah.
going. And then we hit burnout, and now we're ineffective, and that's exactly where he wanted us, and he
Yeah.
wins every time.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're going to take it to scripture, I mean, God rested on the seventh day, right? I mean, we're created to have rest. That doesn't mean you don't do anything and you're lazy, but there's ways to rest your body that's not just sleeping. That's a great thing.
Hmm.
We all need sleep. We
Hmm.
need a good amount of sleep, and that
Hmm.
will help you feel a lot better. But what are some other ways? Like, I know that the word self care sometimes gets a really negative outlook.
Hmm.
So maybe explain what self care is and what it's not.
Well, I love the word that you used was gave myself permission.
Mm,
I love that. First of all, we got to go there
yeah.
because you can try all of these really great ideas, but if you're doing it begrudgingly
Yeah.
and you're feeling guilty because you're
Mhm.
doing these things, we're really missing the point of trying to practice any level of self care. So self care can be basically a whole list of things.
Mhm.
So, someone can practice dancing. You can cook a new meal. You can just literally sit outside and
Mhm.
let yourself see all that you can see, smell all you can smell, hear all you can hear.
Mhm.
It could be like we talked about earlier, going kayaking,
Yeah,
just going out with a friend or going out by yourself.
that works for
um,
me. I love
yeah,
it.
it doesn't have to be bubble baths and chocolate.
Yeah, and
This.
that's what a lot of people think self-care is,
Hmm.
don't they?
But anything can be self care if you give yourself permission for it to
Mhm.
be self care.
Yes.
Again, it because my self care and yours is
Mhm.
obviously going to look a little bit different.
Yep.
Some people might think mine is work, but it's actually self care. Like
Yeah.
because I'm giving myself permission and I am
Mhm.
experiencing it as self care.
I think
I'm
that's a key.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be the one getting the benefits of it.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's such a good way to look at that and to look at self care in maybe a different way than you have before. If you're listening to this, I think that a big piece is, and Joni kind of mentioned it at the beginning, like it involves our whole being. Like
Hmm.
we're whole creations
Hmm.
and we have physical and mental and spiritual and emotional and relational. Like we have all these different aspects of our life, and self care can fit into any and all
Hmm.
of those.
Yes, yeah, and we think about like we are given the charge, I guess, in the church
Hmm.
to care for others.
Yeah.
We're supposed to,
Right.
right? And it's a good thing to do.
Hmm.
We also have to know that it within our ability. We also need to know our why.
Mm.
If we are helping because it absolves us of some level of guilt feeling that we might have,
Hmm.
or if we think we're going to get some bigger pat on the back when we get well done, good and faithful servant, we think
Mm.
it's going to be a little bit bigger pat on the back when we do that. If we think that we are earning things
Jewels in our crown.
in heaven, right? If we think we are doing these things, if that's your why,
Hmm.
that is a big setup
Yep.
for to experience either it be compassion fatigue or burnout, either one.
Hmm.
Um, we have been gifted with the ability to so like sympathy is our ability to feel
Mm.
that other people are experiencing something, right? So it's we become aware that they're feeling something.
Hmm.
Compassion is the sense of like do something,
Mm.
right? So we feel the do,
Yeah.
right? And sympathy is going to be more like pity,
Mm.
like we feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
That's where the bless their hearts come in
Uh-huh.
at, right? That's where that fits in. But we really need to know our why,
Mm.
that we're doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that's something I know here at the church I'm a part of and we're a part of is we always go to that question, like, what's our why? What's the why behind what we're doing? And I think a lot of people don't think about that in their own life. So, think about that and maybe like take some time to write it down if you're listening to this. You could pause it, you can finish it and write it later, but like, what's the why behind what you're doing? Like, what are you passionate about? What gifts have God given you that you can use? And what's that why? And I think that that will change like your perspective. It changes your outlook for how you go about and do those things for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. When we are living inside the passion that God put in each one of us, because
Mhm.
He did. He gave us our individual thumbprints and He gave
Mhm.
us our individual passions. When we are living inside that, it's a spiritual renewal. Like stuff
Mhm.
just kind of happens, right? When we get outside of that and we start looking for that individual pat on the back kind of
Mhm.
stuff, or if we really like how it feels to help people,
Mhm.
and if we let that be our motivator,
Yeah.
we're really going to be set up
Mhm.
for either one,
Yeah.
compassion fatigue or burnout. I think it might be a good place to just kind of slide in here if you're wondering, like, do I have it? There's these four little phases, I guess, that have been suggested when it comes to compassion fatigue. The first one being is like you are on fire, man. Like you're can't stop, won't stop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I love this. This is my cause. This is what I'm passionate about,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going, and then I feel myself withdrawing. Like
Mm.
maybe I see a phone number on the phone and I'm like, like I don't
Mhm.
want to talk about that right now. I start trying to pretend like I don't see things, and then
Mhm.
I might move into more where I'm more irritable. I'm really trying to like make myself
Mhm.
do things because it's what I'm quote unquote supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? And then I move into like this stale isolation.
Mm.
And then I really notice I actually don't care,
Mm.
but I'm doing it now because I like the man's praise that I'm getting, or because I would feel guilty if I didn't do it. So
Mm.
now I'm just trying to keep myself from experiencing guilt. So I just
Mm.
keep doing it.
Wow. That's crazy to think about, like all those different stages.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you find yourself in any of those stages, if you're listening, I would definitely recommend finding your self care, finding the way to take care of yourself. Sounds cheesy, but we want to be the best we can.
Mhm.
And we can't be the best for other people if we're doing that out of what you were just saying, like living in this like just doing it for gratitude or to for
Mhm.
somebody to say, wow, you did such a great job. Like, yeah, that's really nice and I love when that happens, but if that's the why behind, then it's definitely gonna set you up for not feeling great.
Mhm.
Like you're I mean, you can feel pretty miserable when you're not getting those praises and those things. So, find ways, like I said, write down your why, write down the things that are like self care for you.
Mhm.
So, how can you find that physically and relationally, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally? All those different areas, how can you find that? Yeah, I think that's so good.
Yeah, as simple as a Google search, self-care ideas. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Like just as simple as that.
Yeah.
And you can find a list of ideas that
Yeah.
might fit within, your interest.
Yeah.
Or even like you and I, we're not going to go climb mountains tomorrow 'cause, well,
Right.
we don't have any.
Yeah.
But you're right. But you can find things that
Absolutely.
fit with, your lifestyle and
Hmm.
your area where you live. And yeah.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a lot of time or resources, you can find things that will work for your time and your resources. And even just like as small as like setting aside 10 minutes of your day, whether it's getting up before you're the rest of your family to like get ready, because that's my biggest thing is
Hmm.
like every day I'm going to wake up before them so I can get ready in peace. That's a huge like self-care piece for me that's just become routine. Like it's a daily habit that I've got for that. And then there's other pieces like going out and going kayaking with one of my best friends. And it's awesome because we go out with no cell phone service, like any of that stuff. And that brings me so much. Like I can feel the peace of
Yeah.
like not worrying about everything else that's going on because it's going to be there when I get back.
Yeah, yeah, and advocating for yourself like you
Mm-hmm.
did, like, "I need a day,
Yep.
and I'm gonna go do it."
Yeah.
And knowing that the whole time you're out there, I'm not feeling guilty that I'm doing it,
Right.
right? I'm not feeling like the
Because that
American
defeats the
pressure,
purpose.
right, that I'm supposed to be productive all the
Yep.
time, right? Self-care only works if you're doing it for self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the activity doesn't matter what the activity is.
Yeah.
If you're not calling it self-care and experiencing it as such, really not going to do you any good, right? You
Yeah.
can soak in that bathtub till you turn into a prune. It's not going to do anything
No.
for you if you're feeling guilty the whole time thinking
Right.
I could be doing 10 other things.
Yeah. And I think the last thing that I would say is like, especially that relational part, like I went kayaking with one of my best friends and we would just go out, take snacks, sit on the lake. The wind was blowing really hard, so we did have to row really fast back, which was took us like double the time. But just being out there like with her and I trust her, like we can just share anything with each other and it's just a good time. Find the people, like
Mm,
have that support system that you can do that with too, that even if it's a 5-minute phone call that you can just sit and have like or have a cup of coffee with, but those people are so important in your
mm,
life to have that, whatever and whoever it may be, and even if it's an animal.
mm. Yeah,
That's I know you've talked about that a lot, Joni.
speaking
You've
my
got
language,
lots of
right?
animals. We just got a bunny, so I've talked to
Yes.
him a lot.
See, it
It
works, right?
works. But you can talk to animals and one, they're definitely not going to tell anybody anything you're feeling
Confidentiality is
if
100%.
it is great.
Mm.
Unless you have like a talking dog out there, which if you do, like
Hit us up.
yeah, let me know. Um, but no, I think there's just a bunch of different ways that you can find that and find ways to take care of yourself and to come out of this compassion fatigue that you want to get back to where you're
Hmm.
feeling good because you're doing it so that you help people,
Hmm.
not for that gratification or anything else, but just to help people and
Hmm.
to be there for them.
Yes.
So yeah, is there anything else you would want to leave us with? And
Nope, you hit it spot on.
all
I
right,
love it.
I think we hit this pretty well, and I'm so excited because Joni is going to join us again really soon for some other topics. We've got like a whole list, but again, if you guys have any topics, please reach out. Send us an email. My email is attached on here, and you can let us know what would you want to hear about, what would you want to talk about, because we'd love to just discuss those things. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Real Talk with Megan. Remember, you are not alone. Seeking help is a sign of strength, and taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. We'll see you next time for more honest conversations.